The meeting room aboard Starfreight's Central Station fell silent as CEO Dave Miller placed his four hands flat on the polished table. His gray skin had taken on a slightly darker shade, a clear sign of stress among his species. The holographic displays floating above the table showed what everyone already knew. Their company was dying. "We lost another 3 cargo ships this week," Miller said, his large eyes reflecting the red figures hovering in the air. "At this rate, we'll be bankrupt within 2 months." Board member Tom White, a tall crystalline being, chimed in with a sound like tinkling bells. "Perhaps we should invest in better shield technology." "The pirates have already adapted to our latest shields," Miller replied, rubbing his temples with his upper set of hands. "They're always one step ahead." The room erupted in a chorus of suggestions, each one more expensive and less practical than the last. Miller waited until the noise died down before dropping his bombshell. "I've found a solution," he said quietly. "I've hired humans." The silence that followed was different from before. This was the kind of silence that falls when someone suggests setting themselves on fire to stay warm. Board member Green, a blob-like creature, actually lost her shape for a moment before pulling herself together. "Humans?" she bubbled in horror. "Those violence-prone primates from that death world Earth. Have you lost your mind?" Miller stood up, using all 4 arms to gesture at the financial projections. "Look at these numbers. We've tried everything else. Better shields. Bypassed. Armed escorts. Outgunned. Bribery. They took the money and the cargo. But humans," White's crystalline form shimmered with distress. They're insane. Did you know they invented something called extreme sports where they jump off perfectly good buildings for fun?" "Exactly." Miller's eyes brightened. "They're unpredictable. That's what we need." Green oozed forward slightly. "I heard they drink poison for entertainment. They call it alcohol and willingly consume it until they can't walk straight. And they eat spicy food," White added, his crystal structure clicking nervously. "They deliberately cause themselves pain while eating. For pleasure." Miller let them vent their concerns. He'd researched humans extensively before making this decision. Yes, they were strange. Yes, they did seemingly insane things. But they were also incredibly effective at survival and adaptation. "I've hired a security team of 5 humans," he announced. "They're arriving tomorrow." The boardroom exploded again. Green started stress dividing, a common reaction among her species, while White's crystalline form began chiming in distress. "The crew will riot," someone shouted. "Our insurance rates will triple," yelled another. Miller raised all 4 arms for silence. "Our choice is simple. We either try something crazy, or we watch our company die. The pirates have figured out every logical move we make. Maybe it's time to try something illogical. But what if the humans go berserk?" Green asked, her multiple bodies slowly merging back into one. "I heard they can lift 3 times their body weight when they're angry." "That's exactly why we need them," Miller said firmly. "The pirates have gotten comfortable. They know all our moves. But humans?" He smiled. "Humans are anything but predictable." White's crystal structure vibrated with concern. "When will the board get to meet these humans?" "Tomorrow at 900 hours, Miller replied. "They're already on their way." "And before anyone asks." "Yes, I've made sure they understand our safety protocols. Though," he paused, remembering his video call with their leader, "they did ask some rather unusual questions about our cargo container release mechanisms." The meeting ended with nervous murmuring and worried glances. As Miller watched his board members leave, he wondered if he'd made the right decision. But looking at the financial projections one last time, he knew they had no choice. They needed something different, something unpredictable, something human. Little did he know, his decision would change not just Starfreight's future, but the entire galaxy's perception of humanity. The next day would mark the beginning of a legend, though whether it would be a success story or a cautionary tale remained to be seen. The docking bay of Starfreight's Central Station was unusually crowded that morning. Crew members from all departments had found excuses to be there, each hoping to catch their first glimpse of the humans. Most stood behind cargo containers or maintenance equipment, ready to duck for cover if needed. CEO Miller waited at the front, trying to project confidence despite his nervousness. The incoming ship was just completing its docking procedures, and he could feel the tension in the air. The airlock cycled with a soft hiss. Everyone held their breath. The first human who stepped out wasn't the terrifying warrior they expected. Captain Jack Stone was average height for a human, wearing a simple black uniform with a small earth patch on the shoulder. He had a friendly smile on his face and carried what appeared to be a cardboard box. "Morning, everyone," he called out cheerfully. "I brought donuts." The other 4 humans followed him out, each carrying equipment cases and, surprisingly, wearing similar friendly expressions. They looked normal, almost disappointingly so. Miller stepped forward. "Captain Stone, welcome to." "Please, call me Jack," the human interrupted, offering the box. "Donut. They're from Earth. Real sugar and everything." Before Miller could respond, one of the humans, a woman with short red hair, was already walking around the docking bay, looking up and down with intense interest. "Hey, Jack," she called out. "Look at these cargo locks. They're perfect." "Perfect for what?" asked board member Green, who had partially hidden herself behind Miller. "Oh, the woman said with a grin that made several alien crew members step back. "Things." The other humans had spread out too, examining different parts of the bay. They weren't menacing or violent. Instead, they were laughing, taking notes, making jokes. It was somehow more unsettling than if they'd arrived brandishing weapons. "Your cargo routing system is fascinating," one of the humans said, studying a terminal. "Very logical, very predictable. We'll need to fix that." Miller's upper hands fidgeted. "Fix it? But it's working perfectly." "Exactly," all 5 humans said at once, then burst out laughing. During the security briefing that followed, the aliens watched in confusion as the humans kept interrupting serious discussions about pirate attacks to ask seemingly random questions. "Do your emergency lights have a strobe setting? Can cargo containers be ejected manually? What's your policy on playing music through the ship's communication system? Are artificial gravity controls accessible from multiple locations?" Board member White's crystalline form vibrated with anxiety. "What do any of these questions have to do with security?" Jack grinned. "Everything is security if you're creative enough." The meeting reached its peak of strangeness when one human started juggling 3 pieces of security equipment, while another sketched what they called a fun surprise for pirates on a datapad. The drawing seemed to involve cargo containers, emergency lights, and something labeled party time protocol. As the day went on, the alien crew's fear of the humans slowly transformed into a different kind of worry. These weren't the mindless berserkers they'd expected. Instead, they were competent professionals who just happened to find everything amusing and saw standard equipment as toys to be repurposed. "Don't worry," Jack told Miller at day's end, patting him on the shoulder, causing Miller to flinch slightly. "We'll have this place pirate-proof in no time. Though," he paused, looking thoughtful, "we might need to requisition some glitter." "Glitter?" Miller asked, dreading the answer. "Trust me," Jack winked. "Pirates hate glitter. Everyone hates glitter. That's what makes it perfect." As Miller watched the humans head off to their quarters, still chatting and laughing about their plans, he realized that while they might not be the dangerous warriors everyone feared, they might be something far more unpredictable. Humans who were having fun solving a problem. And somehow, that seemed even more terrifying. 1 week after the humans arrived, Starfreight's Central Station looked very different. CEO Miller stood in the control room, all 4 hands clasped behind his back, watching the security feeds with a mixture of horror and fascination. "Captain Stone," he said slowly, "why are some of our cargo ships now painted with what appears to be target symbols?" Jack Stone grinned from his position at the main console. "Those are our bait ships. Pirates won't be able to resist them." "You're trying to attract pirates?" Board member Green wobbled in distress. "Of course," Jack replied cheerfully. "The best trap is the one your enemy really wants to walk into." The humans had spent the past week making changes that seemed to go against all logical security measures. They had taken perfectly good cargo ships and made them look damaged and vulnerable. They had installed what they called party lights in the cargo bays. They had even rigged the emergency broadcast system to play something they called disco music. "Watch this," said Lisa, the red-haired human, pressing a button on her control panel. On the screen, a cargo bay's artificial gravity began cycling in a wave pattern. "We can make the whole cargo bay into a bounce house with just a few gravity adjustments." "A what house?" Miller asked weakly. "And here's the best part," another human chimed in, bringing up a new display. "We've filled some of the decoy containers with glitter bombs. When the pirates try to steal them," he made an explosive gesture with his hands. "Sparkly chaos." The aliens watched in stunned silence as the humans demonstrated more of their security measures. They had turned the cargo tracking system into something they called a pirate pinball machine. They had programmed the emergency lights to strobe in patterns that they claimed would make most species dizzy. They had even installed something called slip and slide protocols in certain corridors. But what about actual defense systems? Board member White asked, his crystalline form flickering with concern. "Oh, those are even better," Jack said. He pulled up another screen showing modified defense turrets. "We've loaded some of them with paintballs. Imagine trying to be a scary pirate when your ship is hot pink." Just then, the alert system began blaring. A pirate ship had been detected approaching one of Starfreight's cargo vessels, one of the bait ships the humans had prepared. "Perfect," all 5 humans said together, rushing to their stations with far too much enthusiasm. The aliens watched in disbelief as the humans put their crazy plan into action. The cargo ship, instead of running away, began playing loud music on all frequencies. Its running lights started flashing in patterns that made several of the alien crew members feel queasy. The pirates, clearly confused by this unusual behavior, slowed their approach. That's when the humans activated what they called Phase 2. "Release the party favors," Jack commanded with obvious glee. Several cargo containers detached from the ship, but instead of floating away, they began moving in precise patterns, powered by carefully programmed thrusters. The pirates found themselves in the middle of what looked like a deadly dance of cargo containers. "Now for the final," Lisa said, hitting another button. The containers closest to the pirate ship burst open, releasing clouds of glitter into space. The pirates' sensors would be picking up hundreds of small objects, making it impossible to get a clear reading. Their ship's hull would also be covered in tiny, sparkly particles that would take weeks to clean off. The pirate ship turned and fled. The control room was silent for a moment before Jack spoke up. "See, told you nobody likes glitter." Miller stared at the retreating pirate ship on the screen, then at the celebrating humans. For the first time, he began to understand. What looked like madness to his species was actually a carefully crafted method. The humans hadn't just created defenses, they had weaponized confusion itself. "Should we pursue them?" one of the alien crew members asked. "Nah," Jack replied, leaning back in his chair with satisfaction. "They'll do our advertising for us. Just imagine them trying to explain to their pirate friends how they were defeated by dancing cargo containers and space glitter." And somehow, that was the scariest part of the humans' plan. It made perfect sense. The infamous Black Star pirates were known throughout the galaxy for 3 things: their massive fleet, their perfect success rate, and their complete lack of humor. So when they picked up a distress signal from what appeared to be an easy target, A lone Starfreight cargo ship with flickering engines. They didn't expect anything unusual. They certainly didn't expect what happened next. From the Starfreight control room, CEO Miller watched with all four hands clenched as the largest pirate fleet he'd ever seen approached their ship. Captain Stone, that's the Black Star flagship. They've never failed to capture a target. Jack Stone sat relaxed in his chair, eating something he called popcorn while watching the tactical display. First time for everything, he said cheerfully. Everyone ready for Operation Party Crashers. The other humans responded with enthusiastic thumbs-up gestures from their stations. Miller noticed they were all grinning. It was the same kind of grin his pet had when it was about to knock something off a high shelf. The Black Star fleet surrounded the cargo ship, their massive flagship taking position directly above it, right where the humans wanted them. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jack announced, pressing a button with flourish, "let's crash this party." The seemingly damaged cargo ship suddenly lit up like what the humans called a disco ball. Music began blasting on all frequencies, something about staying alive. The pirate's communications officer would later need therapy after hearing it on loop for hours. Deploying cargo surprise in 3, 2, 1. Lisa counted down. The cargo bay doors opened, but instead of valuable goods, hundreds of small containers shot out in perfect formation. Each one was painted in bright colors and equipped with small thrusters. They began spinning and moving in complex patterns around the pirate ships. "Are those containers doing the conga?" Miller asked in disbelief. "Yep," Jack replied proudly. "Try getting a weapons lock when your targets are dancing." The pirates, professionals that they were, tried to maintain formation. That's when Phase 2 began. The small containers started bursting, releasing clouds of different colored materials into space. Gold glitter, silver confetti, something the humans called silly string. "Their sensors must be going crazy," one of the humans commented, watching the pirate ships start to move erratically. But the Black Star flagship wasn't giving up. It moved to fire its main weapons, only to find they had been clogged with glitter from the first wave. Their backup weapons triggered the release of more containers, these ones filled with what the humans called foam party supplies. "Now for the grand final," Jack said, hitting the big red button he had insisted on installing. The cargo ship's damaged engines suddenly came to life, but instead of running away, it began playing what the humans called chicken with the flagship. The massive pirate vessel, faced with a smaller ship seemingly intent on ramming it, while blasting ancient Earth dance music, did something it had never done before. It panicked. The flagship's retreat triggered a chain reaction. Other pirate ships, their sensors blinded by glitter and confetti, their crews disoriented by the strobing lights and music, their dignity assaulted by the sheer absurdity of it all, began to flee. Within minutes, the most feared pirate fleet in the galaxy was running away from a cargo ship that had turned space warfare into a party game. In the control room, Miller stared at the tactical display in shock. That was impossible. "Nah," Jack said, offering him some popcorn. "That was just humans being humans. Nobody expects a fight to turn into a party. That's why it works." But the cost of all those special containers, the supplies, still less than what we would have lost if they'd taken the ship, Lisa pointed out. Plus, imagine what this will do to their reputation. The Great Black Star Fleet, defeated by party supplies. As if to prove her point, they picked up scattered communications from the retreating pirates. Most were too confused to even explain what had happened. The few clear messages all agreed on one thing: stay away from Starfreight ships. They're crewed by madmen. Miller looked at his human security team, still celebrating their victory with high fives and laughter, and realized something important. Sometimes the best defense wasn't strength or technology. Sometimes it was simply being so unpredictable that your enemies would rather retreat than try to figure out what you'd do next. 2 months after the Black Star Fleet's embarrassing retreat, CEO Miller sat in his office watching his company's profits soar higher than ever before. On his desk, a small snow globe filled with glitter served as a reminder of how it all started. The humans had given it to him as a gift, calling it his first trophy of war. His computer chimed with another incoming call, the fifth one today. This time, it was the CEO of Galaxy Express, one of their biggest competitors. Miller, the other CEO, said, their tentacles twitching nervously. "We need to talk about your humans." "They're quite busy at the moment," Miller replied, trying not to smile. All across his desk, similar messages blinked. "How did you do it? Can we hire humans too? What's your secret?" The story of the Black Star Fleet's defeat had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Each retelling became more outrageous than the last. Some said the humans had turned space itself into a weapon. Others claimed they had discovered ancient party magic. The truth was almost harder to believe. They had simply made piracy too embarrassing to attempt. In the station's main cafeteria, Jack and his team had become minor celebrities. Alien crew members who once hid from them now asked to sit at their table, hoping to understand how their minds worked. "But why glitter?" a young engineer asked during lunch. "Why not traditional weapons?" Lisa grinned, pulling out her tablet to show videos of the latest pirate deterrent test. On the screen, a small practice drone was trying to navigate through a field of floating soap bubbles filled with more glitter. "Because," she explained, "you can clean blast marks off your ship. But glitter, that stuff stays with you forever." We once had a pirate ship try to dock at a space station 3 sectors away. They were turned away because they were still trailing sparkles. The humans' methods were changing more than just Starfreight. Other companies began adopting their techniques, though never quite as successfully. One competitor tried copying the party defense strategy, but made the mistake of using boring logical patterns for their cargo container movements. "That's not how you throw a party," Jack had commented when he saw the footage. "They're treating it like a military exercise instead of a dance." Even the pirates were changing. Reports came in of smaller pirate groups completely avoiding any ship that showed signs of human influence. Some said they could spot a human-protected vessel by the way its cargo was arranged. Too messy to be normal, too organized to be random. Miller's office door chimed, and his security team walked in for their daily briefing. They had more new ideas, they said. Something about turning the ship's waste recycling system into what they called a confetti cannon. "Is it true?" Jack asked, noticing the messages on Miller's screen. "Are other companies trying to hire humans?" Miller nodded. The Galaxy Defense Force just announced they're opening a special division for human consultants. They're calling it the Unconventional Warfare Department. The humans exchanged looks of pure joy. "Did you hear that?" Lisa said, "We're officially unconventional." Speaking of unconventional, another team member added, "We've been thinking about the emergency spacesuits." Miller held up all 4 hands. "Please tell me you're not planning to add glitter to the emergency suits." "Of course not." Jack looked offended. "We were thinking more along the lines of adding dancing lights. You know, turn every evacuation into a rescue rave." As his security team enthusiastically explained their latest ideas, Miller realized that the galaxy would never be the same. The humans hadn't just saved his company. They had introduced an entirely new way of thinking about security. One where the best defense wasn't just about strength or technology, but about making your enemies question their life choices while covered in glitter. And somehow, in a galaxy full of logical species, that made perfect sense. The message arrived on all frequencies, broadcast across every shipping lane in the sector. The United Pirate Federation, the largest collection of pirate groups in known space, had finally had enough. "Starfreight," the message growled in 12 different languages. "You and your humans have mocked us for the last time. Every ship you have in space will be destroyed. Prepare for war." In Starfreight's control room, the humans were eating popcorn again. "Finally," Jack exclaimed. "I was wondering when they'd try something big. Do you know how long we've been saving our best ideas for a moment like this?" CEO Miller, who had learned to be both excited and terrified when the humans mentioned their best ideas, looked at the tactical display. 27 pirate fleets were converging on their shipping lanes, over 300 hostile ships. "This isn't like the Black Star Fleet," Miller said. "They're attacking everything at once." "Exactly," Lessa replied, pulling up a series of programs labeled Operation Space Party, Maximum Edition. "That's why we connected all our ships last month. Remember those entertainment system upgrades we installed?" Miller remembered. The humans had insisted on linking all Starfreight vessels through what they called a party network. At the time, he'd assumed it was for sharing their strange Earth music. "Time to show them why you never challenge humans to a bigger party," Jack said, cracking his knuckles. "All ships initiate Protocol Dancing Queen." Across space, every Starfreight vessel suddenly came alive. Cargo containers began detaching in synchronized patterns. Emergency lights strobed in perfect harmony. And through every communication channel, the same Earth song began playing. Something about another one biting dust. The Pirate Federation had expected resistance. They had prepared for weapons, for shields, even for the infamous glitter bombs. They hadn't prepared for what came next. "Launch the conga line," Jack commanded. A chain of cargo ships, linked together by energy tethers, began weaving through space like a giant snake. Each ship was painted in bright colors and trailing streams of sparkly debris. Pirates trying to target them found their sensors overwhelmed by the constant movement and the clouds of reflective particles. "Activate the mirror balls," Lisa shouted. Hundreds of specially modified satellites deployed from Starfreight vessels, each one covered in reflective surfaces. They began spinning, sending patterns of light dancing across space. Pirate targeting systems, designed to filter out normal space debris, went haywire trying to track the endless moving lights. "Now for my personal favorite," another human said, pressing a big purple button. "The bubble wrap bombs." Modified cargo containers burst open, releasing clouds of large, transparent spheres. Any pirate ship that hit them was rewarded with a satisfying pop and a spray of more glitter. The humans had somehow weaponized satisfaction itself. "They're trying to regroup." Miller pointed at the tactical display, where the pirate ships were attempting to form a new attack pattern. "Perfect timing for the grand final," Jack said with a grin. "All ships, execute Operation Disco Inferno." Every Starfreight vessel simultaneously activated their new party thrusters, modified engines that left trails of colorful sensor-jamming particles. The ships began moving in complex patterns that the humans called dance moves, creating a massive coordinated display that looked like a choreographed space ballet. The pirates, their formations broken, their sensors useless, their ships covered in multiple layers of glitter and bubble wrap residue, faced a choice: retreat or be drawn into what the humans were now calling the biggest rave this galaxy has ever seen. One by one, pirate ships began to flee. Some were trailing streamers, others had somehow gotten caught in chains of popped bubble wrap. All of them had at least some glitter stuck to their hulls. "Mission accomplished," Jack announced proudly. "Anyone up for an after-party?" Miller looked at the tactical display, where 300 of the most feared pirate ships in the galaxy were running away from what appeared to be a massive space disco. He realized that the humans hadn't just won a battle, they had turned warfare itself into a celebration. And that, he was learning, was what made humans truly terrifying. They didn't just win, they had fun doing it. 1 year after the Great Space Disco Battle, as it came to be known, CEO Miller stood before the Galactic Commerce Council. The massive chamber was packed with representatives from every major trading company in the galaxy. They had all come to hear how a nearly bankrupt shipping company had become the most successful transportation enterprise in known space. "The secret," Miller said, gesturing to his human security team standing proudly beside him, "was learning that sometimes the craziest solution is the right one." In the years since their victory over the United Pirate Federation, everything had changed. Piracy rates across the galaxy had dropped to their lowest levels in recorded history. No one wanted to risk attacking the ship that might turn their raid into an embarrassing party. "But how do you justify the expenses?" asked one council member, their tentacles waving in confusion. "The glitter alone must cost." "Less than one destroyed ship," Jack interrupted with a smile. "And you can't put a price on a pirate's dignity. Trust me, once they've had to explain to their crew why their fearsome warship is trailing pink sparkles, they tend to choose different careers." The evidence was undeniable. Starfreight's success had sparked a revolution in space security. Their ships now carried the most valuable cargo in the galaxy, protected by what many called the party shield. The mere possibility that any attack would end in confusion, embarrassment, and persistent glitter. "We've even had former pirates apply for jobs," Lisa added. "Turns out some of them have a great sense of humor once they stop taking themselves so seriously." The council chamber's displays showed footage from the past year: cargo ships performing synchronized space ballet, emergency evacuation drills that looked more like dance competitions, and the now famous rescue raves, where Starfreight crews would save stranded ships while blasting Earth music. "But what about professionalism?" another council member asked. "Surely this isn't a proper way to conduct business." Miller held up all four hands, showing off his new wrist accessories. "Slap bracelets," the humans call them. "I used to think the same thing. But look at our results. Our cargo arrives safely, our crews are happy, and our clients get to watch pirates run away from dancing spaceships. How is that not professional?" In the audience, board member Green, now decorated with what the humans called party pins, wobbled happily. Next to her, board member White's crystalline form sparkled with actual glitter, a fashion trend he had surprisingly embraced. "The humans taught us something important," Miller continued. "They showed us that security doesn't have to be scary. That defense can be fun. That sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to turn it into a celebration." As if on cue, the chamber's lights dimmed, and music began playing. The human security team had rigged the council room's systems, with permission this time, for what they called a presentation final. The displays lit up with images of Starfreight's greatest hits: the Black Star Fleet retreating from a conga line of cargo ships, the United Pirate Federation being defeated by the galaxy's biggest space party, and countless smaller victories that had become legendary among spacers. "So yes," Miller concluded as the lights came back up, "when I hired humans, everyone thought I had lost my mind. Maybe I had. But sometimes a little madness is exactly what you need." The council chamber erupted in applause. Even the most serious members couldn't help but smile as Jack and his team took a bow, somehow managing to release a small cloud of celebratory glitter despite the chamber's strict security. As Miller watched his human security team demonstrate their latest invention, something they called a zero-gravity confetti cannon, he realized that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The humans hadn't just saved his company, they had introduced an entirely new way of thinking. In a universe that valued logic and order, they had proven that joy, creativity, and a little bit of chaos could be the most powerful forces of all. And somewhere out in space, a former pirate ship was still trying to get the last bits of glitter off its hull.